You're going to have that one group that choose to stay asleep. And you're going to have that other group that choose to not only accept the truth, but to share it with everybody they know. I always say, ask yourself, how important is the truth to you? Why do some risk their life for it? Why do some choose to bury it? When President John F. Kennedy discovered the truth that mattered to him, he prepared to announce it to the whole world. His truth was met with a bullet.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows that the war is over.
I'm activist Vall Owens, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in.
Everybody knows that the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor and the rich get rich. That's how it goes.
I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible.
In the late 90s, as it crossed over in the 2000s, we were introduced to a trilogy of movies called The Matrix. It introduced the world to the red pill and the blue pill. The blue pill described the continuity of the current state of life. For us truthers, it showed us our family and friends, the people that we're constantly trying to wake up and show the truth. It showed their love for things as it is, I'll put it that way. It showed a group of people that didn't want to change even if you showed them the truth. While the red pill, in contrast, it was described as a solution for knowing the real truth in life. Morpheus, a major character on the show, he described it as continuing into the rabbit hole, or in other words, continue to learn about the lies that were set in the world in order to keep us from obtaining freedom. Many of us think we're free. First of all, I just say I'm humbled and I'm thankful to be asked to speak at this Take of the World conference. In order for us to really be able to take on the world, we have to understand that we're all part of a game. And whether we want to realize it or not, or accept it or not, we're all characters in this game. So in order for us to take on the world, we're going to need to take the red pill. I once told someone we were living in the Matrix and they instantly began laughing. They began quoting their favorite lines from the movie as they brushed me off. You ever hear the sound of someone's voice instantly placing you in the category of crazy? Then you're a truther. Welcome to my world. If you're still with me, I'm gonna need you to take that pill I handed you a minute ago and place it in your mouth. And here we go. We're all slaves. Yes, you. You were born on the largest plantation that ever existed. This plantation includes 195 territories, or you know them as countries. We need permission and licenses to travel by boat. We need permissions and licenses to travel by land on this plantation. You must pay for water to drink on this plantation. You can purchase land, but it's never truly yours on this plantation. A deed or title to property give you rights, but not absolute ownership. Scratch that. I sometimes forget I have an audience with different research levels. So in order for us to fully understand, we must start at the beginning, before the Matrix existed. I'm going to be approaching this from a biblical perspective. If that turns you off, don't let it. Remember, the Bible is from the Latin word biblia, and ultimately from the Creole Greek, Romanized ta biblia. In short, Bible just means library of books. They are historical texts put together to help us understand the past and give us guidance for the future. Let's talk earth before the matrix. You won't hear this in any Sunday service either. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and shaped the earth. In an instant, a big bang according to science, Elohim said, "Let there be light." And there was light on the formless dark earth. In Job 38, it's written that while the foundations of the earth were being laid, the sons of God sang for joy. One thing to note is that there were many types of beings existed during this time already created by Elohim. You had the seraphim, the cherubim, archangels, watchers, and the Ophanim, which are discussed in Ezekiel, I believe. There are others, but I like to stick to the ones easily found in the Bible. These beings were so excited, it said that they sang, which shows in the aspect that they are similar to us. If they can get happy, they can get sad, jealous, or angry. Keep that in mind, as a third of those beings gave into that anger and hate and were kicked out of the heavens. During all of this, Elohim created a garden, then created male and female in his image and placed them in it. That's your lineage. That's us. We were made in our Creator's image. Pastors never explain this, but the importance to understand is the significance of that. Elohim created us in his image with the power to create life, take away life, make decisions, think for ourselves, and a brain that's more powerful than any quantum computer man can create. Well, a few of the sons of God we discussed earlier didn't like this. We know of one in particular, Satan. We must note that Satan is not a name, it's a description. The word itself just means adversary. So it seems Elohim had made a decree that this new creation he created in his image will rule over the sons of God one day. So Satan has the plan. There were and still are these trees that existed in the Garden of Eden. When we were created, it seems for us to stay immortal, it is a must we eat from the tree of life. But along with the tree of life, it seems another one grew. One that once ate from infused those that ate from it with the knowledge of good and evil. Knowledge so corrupted, it causes the body to begin decaying. Knowledge so corrupted that it acts as a disease that passes on for infinite generations. And the only cure is an entirely new body. To eat from the tree of life after eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil would match the same fate prophesied for those in Revelations who said to be in so much pain they would seek death and they wouldn't be able to find it. Yeah. We all know what happens next. Satan tricked Elohim's creation and they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's impossible to know the exact knowledge they gained, but whatever it was, you could tell from their actions they instantly regretted it. They realized they were tricked because they ran and hid from Elohim. They created clothes to cover themselves, not just because they realized they were naked, also because they realized their corrupted body couldn't stand bare in the presence of Elohim. They lost their control over the beasts of the field. They went from being made in the image of Elohim to being something a little lesser. Satan told them that once they ate from the tree, they would be like and even equal with Elohim. You would wonder why they didn't just ask Satan why he hadn't ate from the tree, so he could take on Elohim since it provided so much power. It's written when Elohim came down and discovered what his two creations had done, his next actions initiated what was formed the matrix as we know it today. He activated death to combat the disease of decay. And he activated time so that his creation could know that this would all come to an end one day. Just as the movie The Matrix, he activated a chosen one that would come and initiate a great reset. Colossians' first chapter describes him as the firstborn of creation. But don't take my word from it. Let's start at verse 12 of Colossians 1. Giving thanks to Elohim, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Elohim told his creation that his chosen one would come through their lineage and would eventually deliver Satan to justice to be held accountable for everything he had done. He then ordered them out of the garden and into the matrix. His creations, which were named Adam and Eve, began to reproduce. First came Cain and Abel, then Seth. Then they went on to produce daughters. For time constraints, I'm pushing it right along, but their son, Cain, would show the first fruits of what we now call evil, a side effect of partaking in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When he killed his brother Abel, this first act of murder caused him to lose his all-access pass to stand in the presence of Elohim. He left Eden and went to the land east of it called Nod. From Cain came his son Enoch, not to be confused with the Enoch, the great-great-grandfather of Noah. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael the father of Methuselah, and Methuselah the father of Lamech. Lamech took 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the ancestor of those who live in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the ancestor of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. First Enoch makes it clear that humanity, or especially Cain's lineage, was taught metal crafting and other skills by angels, the sons of God. Genesis 6:2. At the same time, Cain's brother Seth had a son, Enos, which bore Canaan, which bore Mahalalel, which bore Jared, which bore Enoch, the great-great-grandfather of Noah, which bore Methuselah, which bore Lamech, bore Noah. See, there's a point to all of this, because in order to understand the matrix, you got to understand how we got here. Genesis 6 says, "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Elohim said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. A lot of people think that meant that men could not live past 120 years, but it didn't. This was prophesying the time in which the flood was going to come. And verse 4 reads, There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Elohim that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And Elohim said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Elohim. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with Elohim. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Elohim said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So when you look at the breakdown, the Hebrew and the Greek, using the concordance, you see that we're taught in church that it was raining 40 days and 40 nights. But when you break it down, Elohim said, I will destroy them with the earth. So it did not only rain or the waters fell from the firmament. The waters rose from the deep, and they continued rising until everything that Elohim wanted wiped out was wiped out. So what's going on? Even if you don't acknowledge the book of Enoch as scripture or acknowledge it as a book removed from the Bible, it's clear that the sons of God took daughters of men as their wives. You have been shown there are different types of angels. Fast forward into the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you see there are angelic beings that look just like you and I, even better. You see, some way or another, they had the intelligence to corrupt even the animals. These changes were irreversible. It changed the hearts and minds of all. Somehow Noah was not affected. So he was chosen to be the man to survive, to reboot the reality. He and his family. So here's the thing. Although the offspring created by these angelic beings mating with mankind were wiped out, and the other humans that were corrupted were wiped out, some things lasted through the flood. Ancient civilization structures, artifacts, tablets, and not to mention whatever knowledge remembered by the wives of Noah, 3 sons who had their own beliefs and memories of the time where gods, lowercase g, men of renown roamed the earth. Also, many angelic beings continue to come down and visit mankind. From Noah and his 3 sons, we find that the earth repopulated. Each one of us can be traced back to one of the sons, Shem, Ham, or Japheth. They built cities and expanded to different territories. Just as we see today more of the world becoming fluent in English, in this new world, everybody spoke the same language. One of Noah's great-grandsons, Nimrod, son of Cush, grandson of Ham, proves that the disease Adam and Eve unleashed along with their knowledge passed down from oral remembrance of the time before the deluge by, one could only speculate, Ham or his wife. And I'm pretty sure interference with fallen beings led to Nimrod founding and ruling Babel and Babylon as a mighty man. Yes, you heard right. The great-grandson of the man that rebooted the human race after stepping off the ark was responsible for one of humanity's greatest coups against Elohim. Nimrod is responsible for leading the people to build the Tower of Babel. This was about 560 years after the flood. Yeah, time flies. People were still living to the age of 600, no problem. Babel was not about trying to climb up to pull God down from heaven. And it wasn't a space program as Zechariah Stitchin claims. It was about preserving what was remembered of the secrets of heaven that the Watchers and other fallen had revealed, including how to travel to it. The internal evidence of this is in some of the key words in this text. Scripture says, this they begin to do. The Hebrew word shalal is used here. It means to bore or pry, open like a wedge, in the sense of this being an act of polluting. There is another way to look at this. They are actually trying to bore into or pry open into heaven. As we have already let the Bible conclude for us, heaven and earth represent eternal and linear dimensions. They are separated from each other as a result of the fall or sin, or as I keep putting it, the disease that Adam and Eve released. Linear versus eternal. It stands to reason that the travel they are trying to accomplish here is interdimensional. The language here would confirm this. To pry or wedge is to open a portal into the eternal realm. Nothing would be restrained from them, scripture says. The Hebrew word batzar means secrets, mysteries, or inaccessible things will no longer be restrained. This can only mean a breach in the time-space continuum. Zamum is used for imagined and means to plot or devise in a negative sense. Tower has a figurative meaning as anything high or lofty. In all Bibles, the words reached unto is italicized. This is because there are no original words to represent them. This was only an assumption by the translators. Equally acceptable in this context is the fact that instead of reaching unto, it could be likened unto. The Tower of Babel was actually the pinnacle of occult knowledge. Occult simply means secret knowledge. The tower represents the attempt to reassemble and maintain the secret knowledge which we now can understand as the physics and technology used before the flood. This is logical to see when, in the law, this very act was forbidden. The Babel builders had a generalized knowledge of the future from their knowledge of the stars. And I'm not talking about the modern sense of astrology, but rather the provision God had made for signs and determining seasons. You can find this in Genesis 1:14. With the knowledge, they develop a contingency plan as they understood there would be a dispersion. This plan is indicated by the phrase, "Let us make a name." The etymology, cultural, and historical use of the words of the Hebrew word Shem for name says volumes to us. According to Vine's notes on Strong's numbers, it is a memorial, but it has the meaning also as something continual with fame. Adding a slant that the root words gives, it includes to set something in a conspicuous place, but to hint with a style of expression marked by obscurity, a lofty or a skyward sign. When you place this all together, you get an accurate picture of the meaning behind the mystery places all around the world. So the contingency plan was, if they were to be scattered, they would create memorials that would encrypt each group's understanding in the structures and hint or point to a celestial markers in heaven. Babel and Babylon was the birthplace of the occult after the flood, people. This shows why Elohim came down, and I'll just let scripture tell you. In Genesis 11:5, it says, "And Elohim came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And Elohim said, Behold, the people is as one, and they have all one knowledge, one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Let us go down and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So Elohim scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because Elohim did there confound their language of all the earth. And from thence did Elohim scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth." Now you know the origins of the occult. Imagine the anger and defiance of people as friends and family had to split into groups that understood each other. The knowledge they had and could do nothing with but pass down orally to each other that understood. Fallen beings and devils began to appear and establish their own religions, such as Marduk and Tiamat, goddess of the sea, Nergal, god of the underworld, and Shamash and Iyat, same as Enki, one of the ancient deities from the Sumerian tablets. So yes, these were ancient beings. These beings will continue being worshipped as Noah's lineage continued to increase. Fast forward 1400 years and we see Elohim had had enough. Elohim decided to tell the people, scratch that. Elohim decided to show the people who the one true God over creation was. Here we see Moses, a descendant of Abraham from the line of Shem, one of Noah's sons, doing something reminiscent of Adam, Enoch, and Noah, and Abraham. He's being directly empowered and guided by Elohim. This is where it all connects. But let's recap. We've seen the origin of evil amongst humanity, the birth of the first matrix, the failing of it, the reboot of humanity, a second attempt at what Adam and Eve tried when they were deceived by Satan, to surpass Elohim using knowledge with the inclusion of technology. This was the Tower of Babel. And then we have a second interception by Elohim to save us from ourselves when he dispersed the language and dispersed the people. And now the birth of the occult and religions that still exist to this day. We have proof of this. In Egypt, the worship of fallen angels, we know this for a fact from Ezekiel's testimony, Ezekiel 1:10. As for the likeness of their faces, they four had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side. They four also had the face of an eagle. We know this because we've seen the different drawings inside and outside the pyramid. We have the sorcery that was performed by Pharaoh's sorcerers. The deception at the foot of Mount Sinai, where some sects of Judaism teaches that an angel appeared and gave some a separate orator that deceived many, which led to the straying of Elohim's chosen people, which finally led to Elohim's promise being fulfilled to Adam and Eve with the arrival of the chosen one. Many pastors never explain the significance of the virgin birth required to bring forth the chosen one. I say chosen one because this presentation does not have time to distract and fill up the comments below with arguments of the letter J and the use of Yahshua and Yahushua and Jesus and the many other arguments that arise. So I just say chosen one. So as we learned early in this presentation that what we've been taught is sin is a disease we suffer from as a direct result of the first human beings in existence eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This disease is passed down through infinite generations through the sperm, and is so strong it attacks the soul, heart, and consciousness. In order for the chosen one not to be affected by this disease we call sin, his father couldn't be a human man. This would cause the chosen one to be double-minded, always battling right and wrong, making mistakes, being tempted, and so on. So the chosen one had to be born of a virgin who had not had any previous partners, because science has already shown us when a man lies with a woman, DNA evidence shows a little of his DNA always remain behind. So a virgin was chosen, an earthly father with a heart and faith and understanding as well, to go along with this virgin and to accept the chosen one as his son. And so the first part of the cure was put in place. The second part was the chosen one had to die. It was important that he died as well because, as you recall, one of the first things Elohim did when Adam and Eve partaked of the tree, he initiated death to be the end-all agent. No coming back. The chosen one had to show the people that he had control of or power over death. The only way to prove it is to die in a way all eyes could witness and return in a way that all eyes could see this as well. Now this is where we get deep, people. After the death, resurrection, and ascension of the chosen one, every fallen being, including Satan, realized their time was cut short. The chosen one decreed he had to leave temporarily to create a new place for us. But he'd leave behind a comforter. They asked, what would be a sign of his coming? And he said, take heed that no man deceive you. Let's talk deception. One of the largest deceptions out there may seem insignificant, but it is the occupation of the chosen one. Many people believe he was a carpenter, but by studying the original Greek and Hebrew, we see that he was not a carpenter. He was a stonemason, because there was nothing but rock in Israel then. Yes, in Mark chapter 6, verse 3, you see the question posed, is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary? But this all hinges on how you translate the Greek word tekton used in this verse. The word is used in ancient Greek to describe a number of jobs ranging from stonemason to blacksmith to carpenter to even craftsmen who work with bronze. Because of how rare wood was in this area, 90% of the construction projects involved stone that would require cutting or chiseling so they would fit properly. The job of a stonemason. And just a mile and a half outside of Nazareth was a huge stone quarry where the chosen one and his earthly dad probably got the rock that they used for construction. If he was a stonemason, it throws a different light on several verses. He also told Peter he was the rock on which the church will be built, which suggested the apostle was part of the foundation. He is also described as the chief cornerstone, an image consistent with the chosen one's work. Why is this important? In occultic groups, there's a phrase, as above, so below. It is a motto associated with sacred geometry, Hermeticism, and the tarot. The phrase derives from a passage in the Emerald Tablet, variously attributed to Hermes Trismegistus or Pseudo-Apollonius of Tyana. Satan and the other fallen are the greatest of imitators. Knowing this knowledge, they use their influence over men to create secret societies, from Babylonian Magi cult and its Kabbalistic and Mithraistic beliefs in the 6th century BC to the Essenes, different sects that infiltrated the Sanhedrin, to the Knight Templars, Rosicrucians, Buddhism, Kabbalism, also known as the Kabbalah, the Cathars, which is European Gnostic religion. The name actually means perfect ones, and the suffix of Islam, the French Revolution Voltaire, to the Freemasons. As above, so below. As the chosen one was a stonemason, mockery allowed them to move in secret in the dark as Freemasons. As the chosen one is said to be the light of the world, they moved in the dark. Let's fast forward to Christmas Day of the year 1119. The King of Jerusalem, Baldwin II, persuaded a group of French knights led by Hugh de Payne II to save their souls by protecting pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. And so the Order of the Knight Templars was formed. This revolutionary order of knights lived as monks and took vows of poverty and chastity. But these were monks with a difference. They would take up arms as knights to protect the civilians using the dangerous roads of the newly conquered Kingdom of Jerusalem. From these humble beginnings, the order would grow to become one of the premier Christian military forces of the Crusades. Over the next 900 years, these warrior monks would become associated with the Holy Grail, the Freemasons, and the occult. I'm sticking to using Freemasonry to make my point, not only because of their mockery, but because they're one of the only known secret societies to allow every other religion to openly be a part of their sect, implementing the one world religion objective. Fast forward 600 more years, Freemasonry in America as we know it today basically originated in England in 1717, and is believed by many Masonic historians to be descended from the builder's guides of operative Masons in Europe in the Middle Ages, whose members built the great cathedrals of that time. See, in 1785, a bolt of lightning struck a courier en route to Paris from Frankfurt on the Main. Original Shift in Days of Illumination was a tract written by Adam Spartacus Weishaupt, founder of the Illuminati. This was recovered from the Dead Messenger. It contained the secret society's long-range plan for the New World Order through world revolution. The Bavarian government promptly outlawed the society and in 1787 published the details of the Illuminati conspiracy in the original writings of the order and sect of the Illuminati. The Illuminati was publicly founded May 1st, 1776 at the University of Ingolstadt by Weishaupt, a professor of canon law. It was a very learned society. Weishaupt drew the earliest members of the new order from among his students. In Adam Weishaupt's own words, he said, "By this plan, we shall direct all mankind in this manner, and by the simplest means we shall set all in motion and in flames. The occupations must be so allotted and contrived that we may in secret influence all political transactions." Under Weishaupt's guidance, the group was successful in attracting members and through various manipulations had allied itself with the extensive Masonic networks in Europe and the United States. Masons were overwhelmingly men of middle and upper class status, doctors, lawyers, and businessmen who had the time and leisure to join what amounted to a social club for the well-to-do. Many of the founding fathers had been Masons, including George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. Indeed, 13 of the 39 signers of the Constitution claimed membership in the fraternity. In the years between America's founding in 1826, Masonry had only grown more powerful, especially in New York. Governor DeWitt Clinton was not only a Freemason, but had also been the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of New York and the highest ranking Mason in the country. By one estimate, more than half of all publicly held offices in New York were occupied by Masons. Now that we've dispelled any thought of Freemasons and the Illuminati being a conspiracy theory and allowed history to prove it as a fact, we now understand how the use of the name Freemason is a spit in the face to Elohim. Now, in the beginning of this presentation, I said in order to take on the world, we must realize we are all a part of a game. Now we understand that it's a game being controlled by Satans, with an S. I meant that. Because as I pointed out, the word Satan means adversary. So we are playing against countless adversaries. I also said we were all characters in the game. Some are even sleepwoke, waking up researching, sipping diet woke. This presentation is your visual red pill. We needed this pill because at birth, they began giving us blue pills. I'm gonna need you to buckle your seatbelt if you haven't already. John Quincy Adams declared that he had never been and would never be a Mason, proving that this was not a conspiracy theory but a real problem society was dealing with. See, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and the 13 of the 39 signers of the Constitutions were Freemasons. I have to repeat that because this is very important for us to understand. A group with their own agendas, their own allegiance, and once you reach a certain level, their own light-bearing God, lowercase g. Once they took control of countries by grabbing the reins of politics, They adopted different controlling tactics of the past. One, they created the two wings, one bird government that rules over us even to this day. In the book by Robert Greene entitled 48 Laws of Power, Law 45 says, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Everyone understands the need for change, but people are nonetheless creatures of habit. See, every politician runs under the platform of change. But when they get in office, everything remains the same. What we always see happen is little sparks of chaos or terror events that occur for our leaders to address, so we have no time to address the ones that would benefit the people. A few years ago, a little girl doing a school project showed how all the presidents that we've had in the past are related to each other. And when Americans saw this, no one batted an eye. It didn't raise not one eyebrow. They entertain us with bread and circus. Bread and circus, sometimes called bread and games, means to generate public approval not by excellence in public service or public policy, but by diversion, distraction, or by satisfying the most immediate or base requirements of a populace. Although it benefits some to have an outlet such as football, basketball, baseballs, etc., in 2020 we got a glance of just how powerful the bread and games are, as the games are now used to spread political views and disrupt civility. Since birth, they've been working on programming the perfect little working citizen. John Cotton said to the Bay Colony in 1650, break kids away from the parents. Horace Mann repeated this in 1850 to the Massachusetts schools. They saw how Prussia had learned to create the perfect follower, and they put together what is called the compulsory school system. School was designed to be a replacement for the church and the parent in the child life, writes John Taylor Gatto, a former American school teacher. Make sure you go and check out his book entitled Dumbing Us Down. It was an interesting read for me. School is meant to be a comfortable prison where children are told to focus but taught not to be able to finish tasks as the bell rings while they're in the middle of subjects and teachings. It teaches a hive mindset while destroying individuality. As children spend more time with their teachers than their parents, many parents start to see changes in personality and other things once their child entered the compulsory school system. They do this for 12 years out of their lives. What do you think we learn to pledge allegiance to the flag, even though scriptures direct us otherwise? What do you think we learn acceptance of war and are taught history, or should I say his story? Because real history is told by the victors. Yes, your red pill is kicking in. You're waking up. They teach us economics, but nothing about credit, managing or balancing a checkbook. The first thing we're taught is how to cast a spell by learning spelling and how to spell. We are warned not to use cursed words. We're taught not to cast curse. I mean, when you wake up, you start to see things as it is. After school is done for the day, we're allowed to head home and sit in front of what is referred to as the television set, the scrying mirror, a device that description tells its user its intended purpose, to program the television program. It's right there in front of our face. You see it now, don't you? You see that we have absolutely no land ownership. Title gives us rights, but not ownership. We pay for rights over a piece of land. We pay for taxes, but we don't own it. We don't pay our taxes no matter how much we pay for the land. They take our property. We're like cattle. You need a birth certificate, a death certificate, a license, a permit. All of these methods of control. So the $1 million question is, what is the end game? And this is why it was important for you to take this red pill, people. because you had to know how it began to understand the end game and how it ends. It depends on which God you choose to serve. Whether you choose the lowercase g or you choose Elohim that continuously interjects to save us from ourselves. You have the different gods out there, the different lowercase g's out there that's deceived the people. One teaches the Christ consciousness. The other teaches that you are God. Another give you this being and entity to worship. And then you have the African religion that tells you to pray to your ancestors that couldn't even save themselves. A lot of the Native Americans do it as well. They teach to pray to the ancestors. So the end game is gonna be whoever you choose to serve. But if you choose to serve Elohim, this is why you're on the winning side. Because as we've shown, he came before all of the other gods that rose. But the crazy part about it is the end game includes a lot of people that really think that the technologies of this world can save them from the Creator. But it's one thing you just gotta remember. You are in this world, but you don't have to be of the world. So question is, what do you do now that you've taken the red pill? I can tell you what you do. You stay woke. You decide to stand for truth. You understand that perfection lies with our Creator, our Father. You avoid deception. You own your mistakes. And you actively seek a way to wake up your brother and wake up your sister who sleep. You stop choosing sides. You take your faith off the politicians, knowing that the end game is prophesied in the book of Revelation. You know how it turns out. Elohim wins. The disciples went through tribulation, and depending on the time restraints, maybe we will as well. But we know that the Creator is on our side. The chosen one is on our side, so why worry? I'm gonna stop calling you a white man, and you're gonna stop calling me a black man. We're gonna remember, this is why we went back to the beginning. Elohim made one race in his image. One race. We can all get along. I'd just like to thank everybody for taking the time and listening to this presentation. And before I go, I would like to tell you about what I'm working on. Some time ago, I started researching a lot of different topics. I think it was around about 6 years ago I really jumped in this heavy, and it's been an up and down road. I came from working in the music industry, and I think all my life I wanted to be, the hip-hop rapper and just be on top of the world, as they say it. But one thing about this red pill is once you take it, it's hard to go back to the blue pill. I mean, we saw that in the movie. So it's been an up and down road. I think a year ago, I went back to the worldly industry, and I signed a small deal to produce a couple records. I got 2 out there under the name of Panda, and it's hard. And once again, I walked away from it because how do you spew toxic music? How do you create music that tears down the people while knowing what you're doing. It's almost next to being a psychopath in my mind. I know it's very narcissistic and selfish. So, upon looking into these things, I got back on my walk. And it's not a perfect walk. It's more a walk of truth. And that led me to create what I'm running now. It's a platform called Woke Journalist. And the website is wokejournalist.com. It's not a blog. It's an actual news agency that's growing. You know, we have over 10 independent journalists that's working for the site, and we invite all that have, if you have a blog, if you're a researcher, because we have a wiki section as well. So we invite all to come and be a part of this news agency, because everything we see out there, we can't believe it. It's all biased, it's all opinionated, and people the news has become what the reporter feels like instead of reporting the facts. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on. We're living in the end days. We're living in the last days. And I don't know about you, but I have children and I have a wife, and it's important to me that when they go searching, that they find the truth. So I put in the description a link to the site. It's ran by the people. It's funded by the people. So that means if you find the site beneficial to you, every dollar is appreciated. I pay for the server. Using my savings, pay for the server. We pay for the developer. I have a developer with 2 to 3 master degrees. This is for the people. So this goes back to the entire presentation. We can make a difference. We can start one little thing at a time. I'm starting with Woke Journalists, and I'm hoping to expand. I'm hoping this grows. My goal is to be able to, these false flag events, even the real-time events that take place, to be able to fly out to it and we be on the ground. You have a truther on site. So I ask you guys to just go check that out. And once again, I thank each and every one of you for checking out this presentation. And I'm so humbled for being invited to the Take of the World and being able to speak. I'm activist Vall Owens, and I love you.